Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the BSB Show. Mr. Burton joins me once again, and we're here to talk about the shenanigans of Donington Park. I hope you're sitting comfortably because it's going to be a long one. There's a lot to talk about. So we'll go through what happened at Donington, the 3 races there. We'll have a look at the highlights. We've got an interview with Steve Rodgers from McAMS Yamaha, and then we're going to look ahead to the finale of the 2023 Bennetts British Superbike Championship, coming soon to Brands Hatch. Right then, let's do it. Where do we start? I mean, honestly, I hope we've got enough tape in the machine because there's weather. So the weather came and attacked us, didn't it?
It properly did, yes. Yeah, I think I said on the previous one that it all depends on what the weather does, and the weather did depend on everything that it did. I think if we start with the sprint race on the Saturday,
yes.
I don't think anybody knew what was really going on. So I think it just started to rain as we were on the grid, like very small spots of rain. And obviously nobody had done any wet practice in Superbike anyway over the weekend. So that means that the riders are entitled to a certain amount of laps or time before the race gets going. So from what I could gather, they were given, I believe, 7 minutes or 8 minutes or something like that. They were given a certain amount of warm-up laps, and they could either come through pit lane or go back to the grid or however they wanted to do it. So you then saw at the start of that, Leon Haslam was actually on a slick front, and he went out on his first warm-up lap with a slick front and an intermediate rear, I think, or a wet rear, one of the others, which he was very impressive to get round that lap on a slick front. And then from there on in, just sort of carnage ensued. There was wheels being thrown around everywhere, different fork springs going in, and all sorts of stuff. It was mental, really, but it provided some good racing.
It was a real test, wasn't it, for the mechanics and for the crew chiefs and for the riders themselves, who, and we've heard subsequently, so many of them were still undecided, even before the official warm-up lap went out, and they were sort of tiptoeing around, thinking, "Have I made the right choice? Haven't I?" Because there was soft wets, hard wets, intermediate, slicks, and any form of combination. That's all in the rules. Yeah, that is all in the rules. So technically, you could have run what you wanted, within reason. So if you saw, obviously, in that sprint race, you had the 2 Ducatis. Glenn and Tommy ran into front and into rear. I think Christian Idden ran an into front and into rear as well. Ryan Vickers, I believe, was on all wets. The only man that was a slightly different choice was Leon Haslam. He went a wet front and an into rear. And I think the only reason why he went that was because he ran out of time on the grid to put a wet rear in, which basically meant that he was running with a cut slick in the rear. So in that first race, he had a lot of grip from the front, but not a lot from the rear. It started raining, then it stopped raining, then it started raining again. So I think Leon probably made the better of the choices, and the gamble paid off. But for the championship sort of protagonists, Tommy and Glenn, it didn't pay off at all. No. Should we watch the highlights first?
Yeah, let's remind
ourselves.
Stuck
into it.
Yeah.
This is what happened across all 3 races.
Jason O'Halloran was on pole position for Bennetts BSB BikeSocial sprint race as rain had fallen, and it was a lottery for tyre choice as they made the approach down to turn 1. A rocket start for Ryan Vickers. He led into the first corner, Redgate. There were dramas, though, for the 2 men fighting it out for the championship in 2023. Glenn Irwin having troubles and pulling into pit lane, and at this stage Tommy Bridewell was stone last. Vickers had got off to a really good lead. Jack Kennedy at this stage in second place, with Lee Jackson and Peter Hickman fighting it out for the remaining podium positions. Glenn Irwin rejoined the race, but had changed tyres, meaning that there would be no points on offer for the championship leader. And the race didn't exactly go to plan from there on in either. They would finish 23rd and 24th respectively. Tommy Bridewell also visiting the gravel trap during the race. On his return to racing, Andy Irwin crashed out but was absolutely fine. Christian Idden went dirt tracking as well through the gravel. And in treacherous conditions, it was the pocket rocket Leon Haslam diving his way through the pack. And Luke Mossey, ever present, as the final podium positions were on offer. Tommy Bridewell then came in to change rubber as well. Out front, Vickers resumed his lead. But on the final lap, with Haslam in second, Luke Mossey made his move on Jack Kennedy down into the Melbourne Loop. It didn't quite work there, but then on the run up towards Goddard's, he had another go. A block pass into the final corner to take third spot. It was second for Haslam, but there was no stopping Ryan Vickers, his second win of the season. With 5 races to go in the season, Leon Haslam started from pole position, with Bridewell starting from the back, and Glenn Irwin, the championship leader, starting from 12th. Down into turn 1, Haslam got the whole shot from Lee Bob Jackson and Ryan Vickers, with Glenn Irwin making a rocket start, fishing his way through to 4th first, then up to 3rd, then into 2nd past Lee Jackson down at the Melbourne Loop. All the while, his teammate Tommy Bridewell making good progress through the pack. By the end of lap 1, Irwin pounced for the lead from 12th to P1. A lovely move on the approach to Redgate to go through on Leon Haslam. But there was some big drama to come. Tommy Bridewell had punched his way past Nesbitt and Max Cook. He then made 2 in 1 at Redgate, through on Jason O'Halloran and Storm Stacey. And soon he was with the leading pack, going through on Kyle Ride with a few spots of rain in the air. It did not take long for him to then get himself into the top 3 as they approached Coppice. The rain started to fall, and Tommy Bridewell made a bold move on the approach into the foggy S's, going through into 2nd place. Then from the back of the grid, he led here at Donington Park, making the move on Glenn Irwin down into Goddard's. What a race then unfolded, with 5 and 6 riders all fighting it out for victory. Kyle Ride and Ryan Vickers were getting in the mix to try and find their way onto the podium, but there was a big storm to come and big drama to follow soon. Irwin really didn't want to let Tommy Bridewell out of his sight, as there were spots of rain once more over at Goddard's. And then came the biggest drama of all in the championship so far in 2023. A great move from Glenn Irwin set it up through McLean's, but then this was the big moment. Bridewell thought about going up the inside and then collected his teammate Glenn Irwin through the Melbourne Loop, the pair of them going down. Red flags ultimately came out because of rain falling, which meant that Kyle Ride won from Leon Haslam, and their championship is back on. Was on pole position for the final race of the weekend at Donington Park, but there was drama as soon as we got into turn 1 here at race 3, the penultimate weekend of the season for Glenn Irwin, the championship leader by half a point. But then the throttle said no, a retirement on the opening lap, meaning no points for the weekend for the Northern Irishman. Absolute heartache for the Beer Monster Ducati rider. His teammate Tommy Bridewell at that point was in 3rd, but then ran into a spot of bother himself down into the Melbourne Loop, losing a couple of places to Kyle Ride and Leon Haslam. It was a rocket start though for Jason O'Halloran. He was leading from Ryan Vickers, but Vickers crashed out at McLean's corner. Jack Kennedy was making great progress, Josh Brooks likewise, and Christian Idden all on the cusp of the podium positions. Idden was first to pounce on Tommy Bridewell, moving through into 3rd place. Then a little bit more drama for Bridewell down into the Melbourne Loop, losing another couple of places, one to Josh Brooks and then another to Storm Stacey. Charlie Nesbitt then nudged his way through down into Goddard's as well, sitting the championship leader up. Jack Kennedy and Peter Hickman were then to follow as well, as Bridewell went down deep into the Melbourne Loop and was sat up by the Irishman. Pete Hickman made his move into the old hairpin. That was set up from Craner Curves, and a lap later, Lee Jackson was going to do exactly the same thing to Tommy Bridewell to leave him back in 9th place overall. Out front, Jason O'Halloran was doing a great job ahead of Leon Haslam, but Haslam's bike went pop. The red flags were brought out as a result. Haslam's championship charge comes to a halt here a little bit as well. It rages on to Brands Hatch, but the win was declared for Jason O'Halloran.
Well, it certainly made for entertaining viewing, whether you're watching it on the television or watching it live on trackside. There was many a nail being bitten, I'm sure, by the crews of all the riders. In fact, some of the riders probably too. But, I mean, what a ride from Ryan Vickers. He really controlled that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah. And I think...
He showed a lot of maturity, I think.
Yeah, he did for me in that race. Ryan, I said to him as he was coming off the podium, I was like, you're starting to become a bit of a Rain Man now. And he kind of laughed, because I think in most of the wet races that we've had this year, I think we've only really had 2 or 3, but Ryan's been up there. Obviously, he won at Brands Hatch when the race was cut short, and then won at Donington at the weekend in the sprint race in iffy conditions. But like you said, yeah, showed a lot of maturity, really threw himself sort of back into contention, not as a title fighter, because he can't technically win the title, but certainly as one who can mix it in there now. But for me, the best one probably from the sprint race was Leon. The way he rode on an inter-rear was really impressive. But the last lap between Jack Kennedy and Luke Mossey was quite exciting. Luke, as you just seen there, went up the inside at the Melbourne Loop, slightly run a bit wide. And I think Jack probably thought maybe I've got it covered going into Goddard's, and Luke just went up the inside and blocked past him, and I think he was apologised afterwards for the move, but that was his first podium in 6 years, would you believe? Or first podium in Superbike for 6 years.
You can see the relief, couldn't you? He was certainly a happy boy after that.
Yeah.
That tactics by Lloyd Jones PR BMW crossing the line just a tenth and a half ahead of Jack Kennedy, who must have been, mightily frustrated. But of course, that put, I think he set a very good lap time, didn't he?
Meant Luke was on the front row of the grid for the second race on, the first race on Sunday, second race overall, which, as everybody's just seen, that's where all the drama happened, which we're probably going to have to cover.
Let's get straight to it.
Do you want to get into it? Why not?
All right, so the 2 Ducatis, since the passing of Paul Bird, have had tremendous success at Alton Park and tremendous distress at Donington Park.
Yes.
Does it beg the question that, if it had still been there to square them up, would they have been so calamitous?
No, I still think it would have been the same. Yeah, I still think it would have been the same. I don't think it makes a difference whether if Paul would be allowed to see it or not. Sure. I still think it would have been the same. It was an exciting race, as you've all just seen, and starting from the back of the grid, because Tommy had to start from the back of the grid. Quite confusing. I don't really fully understand how he started from the back of the grid, but he did. There is some kind of rule where I think you have to complete 1 lap on the tyres that you've started the race on to set a lap. Glenn didn't do that. He came in straight away after the first lap to change to wets, which then meant he didn't get a lap time, but started from 12th. I don't fully know the rule on that one. I really don't understand it. And then obviously Tommy came in with probably a lap to go to change, or 2 laps to go, I think, to possibly then try and put himself a decent lap time on, but ultimately started at the back of the grid. So everybody was expecting a man on a mission, and that's what you got. You got a Tommy Bridewell man on the mission.
Let me just, I'll read
the rule there for us.
From the official timesheet. It says, regarding best lap times, only a rider's lap time set in a race using the tyres front and rear together as a set that he started the race on will be recorded for the purpose of determining the grid position for the next race.
There we go. So I wonder whether because Glenn got straight through to Q2, only 12 riders... I really don't know how it works. I don't really want to get into it because I might get my wrist slapped. But yeah, which basically meant that Glenn started from 12th, Tommy started from the back of the grid, and Tommy was a man on a mission.
What a stunning performance for the first 11
Yes,
laps. 11 and a half laps.
I said, coming off the grid, I said to Chris and all of the other Bennetts guys, Tommy Bridewell is going to win this race. And I was so close to being right. He would have been the only man since Neil Hodgson, I think, to come from the back of the grid to win a race.
What gave you that instinct?
Just looking at him on the grid, and when I took a picture of him on the grid, he looked at me and went, "This is mine."
Did he?
Yeah. So I was like,
focused.
I was like, okay. And he kind of had a point to prove. We've got a championship to win.
Yes.
And he's ultimately, for me, up there with one of the best on the grid. And he's on the best bike on the grid, so he was going to pull his way through.
Of course, at that stage, none of them had neither he nor Glenn had scored in the first race.
Exactly.
There was only half a point in it still.
Yes.
Glenn was 14 places
ahead and made a very good start as well.
Yeah. And Tommy could see that, of course. Tommy knew that Glenn was leading.
Yep.
Glenn did not know that Tommy was coming through like a
train. Yeah. I think Glenn said after the race, after the gravel, that he was looking at Tommy's pit board as well,
right.
as he was looking at his own, because obviously they're very close together, so he can still see it. And he could see that he was coming through like a train and knew he was coming.
That's incredible to have the time to avert your gaze, because he's in a battle. He's not leading by a country mile, is he? He's still fighting.
Yeah. And then so when you saw Tommy come through, I was sort of not cheering, but I was like, yes, I knew he'd be there. And then chaos and
lap 12,
like you
Melbourne
say, shenanigans ensued. Yes.
It wasn't just a gentle tap, was it? And he didn't sort of slide underneath him. He properly bang.
Yeah.
That was a big impact.
Yes, it was a very big impact. It was it was one of those that I think everybody could see something was going to happen at some point between those two. You just didn't know when, you just didn't know how, or as big as what it was. It was a very big incident. Obviously, as probably everybody's seen, Tommy did apologise afterwards. Yeah. Did say it was his fault. Apologised to the team. Apologised to Glenn. Whether if he accepted that apology, I don't really know. I would imagine he has. But yeah, shenanigans.
Well, I can't imagine that they skipped back to the Ducati garage together, arm in arm.
No.
There must have been things said, and of course, from the television, we could see. I mean, I was standing down at Craner Curve at the time, but I could still see a big screen, and you could see the
garage door came down straight away, and a lot of people were asked to leave the garage. A lot of guests were asked to leave, and so yes, there was a lot of drama from that, but ultimately it left Cal Ride to go and take another victory. I think his fifth or sixth win of the year, something like that.
Yeah, because of course he won 2 of the 3, didn't he, earlier in the year, and was leading the third the race. I can tell you because I've got it here. So he's won 5.
5, there you go. That was his 5th very
win.
close. And then obviously Leon back on the podium, and a return for Christian Idden back on the podium as well, which was nice to see.
Very nice, yeah. Such a lovely guy. Haslam's second place of the weekend. Of course, that he's a circuit he knows the back of his hand.
Yeah.
Who else performed well in that race for you? There was a fair few retirements, of course.
There was a fair few retirements, a couple of crashes as well. I think probably the biggest one for me was probably Christian. I thought Christian rode really, really well, especially with the conditions as well, because it was the rain was on and off. It wasn't heavy enough to make it a wet race, but it was heavy enough to make it, an exciting race of, is it mental rain, is it not, is it proper rain, that kind of thing. And those kind of, for me, Christian's probably the best in those type of conditions. I think he just got stuck in a bit of a battle with Lee for a little bit too long. It was about a 7 or 8 man battle for the lead that race, which was quite interesting. Everybody wanted to see a proper battle, and that's what everyone got. So probably, but yeah, for me, probably the biggest one was probably the way Christian rode, and Lee as well. I think Lee was unfortunate not really to get on the podium there, because he got a lot of pace at the end of the race. A lot of people were saying that during the weekend, that Lee, and everybody knows Lee comes strong at the end of a race. He's not the best starter of a race, but he's got a lot of pace at the end. So it was a little bit of a shame to not see him get on the podium, but nice for Christian.
And then race 3.
Race 3. Fully wet.
Fully wet.
Everybody was soggy, wet, damp.
And off the line, there was drama at the first corner. already.
Yes. Yep.
Because Glenn Irwin's bike packed up.
It did. Throttle sensor, I believe. So from what I can gather, the Ducati's got 2 throttle sensors. So one, the main one, and then a backup one if the main one goes down. And I believe both of them, or one of them, went down, which meant the bike completely shut off and he was out of the race at turn 1. Which then left Tommy Bridewell in the lead of the race, I believe. At a certain point, I think he got up as far as 3rd, actually, I believe.
Yeah.
Because Jason completely shut off at the front, cleared off at the front. Ryan Vickers tried to hold with him, crashed at the old hairpin. And then from there on in, Tommy just started dropping backwards.
Do you think he was concerned? I think he was just desperate to score points.
I think he was desperate to score points, yeah. From what he said, his visor was steaming up. But from the bits that I was watching, especially into the Melbourne Loop, it just looked like he couldn't get it stopped. He ran on about 2 or 3 times. Yeah. Whether if it was the conditions or whether if it was electronics, it looked to me like the bike was pushing him into the corner more than what he wanted. Which basically meant he couldn't get the bike stopped on the brakes. So really for Tommy, and he knew that Glenn was out, the team had put G. Irwin out on the pit board after the first lap, so he knew that Glenn wasn't in the race, so he just needed to pick up some points, which he did, finishing 9th. Not the best of results, but a result at the end of the day, meaning he now goes into the last round of the championship 7.5 points ahead.
Yeah.
So Tommy leads going into the last round of the season. Not by a lot though, so it's still all to play for. And for 8 people.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, really, considering the dominance of the Ducatis throughout the season, and yet 8 people can mathematically still win this championship.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is going to... Well, with that said, and of course with what happened at Ducati over the weekend, I think that... Mr. Higgs and co must all be rubbing their hands with glee, thinking, well, ticket sales for Brands Hatch are going to be...
Well, I think everybody's rubbing their hands together, because for the last few years, certainly last year, you could have handed Bradley Ray the trophy before you turned up, really. And I suppose, say the year before, Taron was... Yeah, all right. Yeah, I'll say it. You could have handed Taz the trophy as well, really. Whereas now, it's close to call. If you have another race like we did on Sunday, the first race where both Ducatis take each other out, it plays into people like Leon Haslam's hands, Kyle Wright's hands, people like that. I remember I stand on the podium and help with the customers handing the trophies out and things like that. And Leon came up and asked and said, what really happened in that Tommy and Glenn incident, because he was sort of behind it but didn't really see all of it. And Christian said the same, and I looked at Leon and I said, "You're right in this now. You're only like 17.5 points behind," and he was shocked at how close he was. So a bit unfortunate for him to blow an engine in the last race, because he would have been right in there, especially with Tommy finishing where he finished.
Yeah, he was second, and it goes out of Coppice onto that straight. He's popped.
Yes, yeah. But it's still all to play for. I mean, we've got the points in front of us there. Yep. Leon's 41 behind, Kyle Ride's 35 behind, Glenn's 7.5 behind Tommy. What's Lee? Lee's 43.5, Jason's 50.5. And for everybody's information, it goes to 35 points for a win now.
Yeah, what's second place? Do you know?
30 to 32, 30, something like that.
There's a lot of points available. There's 105 points as a maximum available, which gives you an idea of the fact that Christian would have to win all 3 races
and hope for everybody else in front of him to
But mathematically, it's still
a chance. Yeah.
But of course, it puts them into for sponsors and for the team. It gives them there's still a lot to fight for.
Yeah, definitely.
And then so race 3, Jason cleared off, which is fantastic for the McAMS Yamaha team as they go into their final round of their history. Yes,
yeah. It was nice to see. Jason gave Steve a real big hug in Parc Ferme afterwards. I think it's going to be sad to see McAMS Yamaha leave. And Jason obviously moves on to pastures new. He moves to the FS3 Kawasaki team. I'll not give it its full title because that probably will change. Right. So we'll go to FS3 Kawasaki for the minute. So yeah, it will be quite emotional. And Steve, when I spoke to him on Sunday morning, got very emotional about leaving, but I think he's looking forward to retirement.
Shall we hear from him?
Why not? Let's do it.
Bertie went to speak to Steve Rodgers, who's the team owner, isn't he, of the McAMS Yamaha team.
So, Steve, welcome to Bennetts BikeSocial. Thank you very much for joining us. I think we've just mentioned it off camera. I've just said it. Are you looking forward to retirement? Is it a bit of a? Do you feel a little bit sad that it's coming to an end?
Very sad. Yeah, it will be. I mean, brands will be it'll there'll be a few tears and stuff. Yeah, I think when the time's right, other things we want to do and stuff. So yeah, we'll not just cut off from racing. We'll still be involved in stuff. We'll still supply all the race bikes and parts and stuff for Yamaha into the paddock and stuff, so we'll still be involved.
What was the driving force to make the decision? Was it just, did you feel the time was right, or is it something at home, work life, business, or just literally had enough?
Yeah, just me really. I just thought, there's other things I want to be doing, and this has been fantastic, it's great, but it does take over, and and obviously we run the dealership, so it's just bikes 24 hours a day. So just wanted a little bit of time to just do some other things, really.
Let's look at it then. Over 20 years in this paddock, what are the overriding best memories? Obviously, you're going to say winning the championship in 21 with Taz is the best, but just talk us through some of the better memories that you've had from this paddock.
Oh God, I mean all sorts. You can go back to 1993 when we did wildcard at the British Grand Prix with Kev Maudsley in the 125s. Phil Borley on the 600s. We did the Open de Cardos with Kev as well, championship in Spain. Wildcard with Taron here at Donington, in World Superbike. And obviously, without question, 21, we sort of dominated, didn't we, and won the championship. So, yeah, it's been some fantastic memories.
Did you ever think that potentially you would ever get that elusive British Championship, that Superbike crown, because you'd worked so hard for so long? Did you ever think I'm probably never ever going to get this again? Yeah. Did you think it would happen?
I think we finished second in Supersport 4 times, and you just think this is just never going to happen. And then obviously 2020, we probably should have won it. We didn't, and then obviously 21, everything came together, and I think we had 22 wins out of the 33, didn't we? So. Eventually got there.
You feel like you're going to be leaving a big hole in this paddock when you roll out of Brands Hatch?
Yeah, I think we will. I mean, hospitality's a big old unit, isn't it? And the presence. I suppose so. I mean, obviously OMG will take over as the official team from us. I think Mark Train will step up again and continue running Yamaha. So there'll still be 3 bikes on the grid. But yeah, I suppose so. But like I say, sometimes you've just got to do what's right for yourself, haven't you?
What do you think you'll be doing on that first race weekend then in April 2024? What's the plan for Steve Rodgers? A holiday, or will we no doubt see you in the paddock? You're not going to be able to keep away, are you? Let's be fair.
No, we'll still come. In fact, weirdly, I thought, do you know what? That'd be a good road trip, that, wouldn't it? First round, go to Spain. Yeah. But I don't know. We'll see.
Let's looking at it then. How much support will Raceways give to other teams in this paddock going forward from now on in?
I mean, we'll still supply obviously all the discounted parts through Yamaha. Everything comes through us. The bikes, if you want to be Yamaha for racing, it'll come through us. We'll help Mark Train, I think, with some support for next year. We'll keep involved. Also, I think we'll help Kev Stevenson at Rev to Race, because Kev's going to run some R7s in the Twins Championship. So obviously Kev does our engines now and a lot of work for us. So I think we'll do a little bit with Kev. So yeah, we'll keep involved.
All the riders that you've had over the years then, who's been the best to work with? Who's been your favourite? And then I will be asking who was the worst.
I don't think, favourite, I mean obviously, we put Taron on a superbike, in 18, and he won the championship for us in 21, so it's a close one between Jason Taz really. But yeah, I mean, Taz, we sort of like brought him through and won it with him, so that was special.
Go on then, who was the worst? Who was the hardest?
Who's the hardest? Oh,
the most challenging.
The most challenging. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, Tito was challenging. Yeah, all he kept saying was full gas. It's like, you know, well, not there hasn't really been any. You know, I mean, we had Josh in 18, which I feel was too early for the team. You know, only in our second year. I think we'd have done a better job with Josh if we'd have had him a year or so later. But no, we're not really had anybody who's, you know, all the riders have been great, you know.
Well, Steve, thank you very much for your time, and from everyone at Bennetts on BikeSocial, thank you very much for the memories, and hopefully we'll see you in the paddock very soon.
You will, no problem. Thank you very much.
Well, interesting stuff, and of course they're going to be very sadly missed from the paddock going forwards. Hots and knots, Mr. B. Yep. It's something that we do every episode. We talk about those who had a particularly good round, those who didn't. Mm-hmm. The shiners and those who didn't. Anyway, so who? I mean, mathematically, those who did well: Leon Haslam and Lee Jackson. Yep. Again, Lee Jackson keeps up his. I don't want this commentator's curse nonsense, but he scored in every single race this year, of which there has been 30, and he scored in every round. So good on him. We often hear Jamie Whittam on Eurosport's coverage calling him a safe pair of hands.
Well, he is a safe pair of hands.
Yeah.
It's like a good goalkeeper. He's like Nick Pope. He's a safe pair of hands. You know what you're gonna get with him. Yeah. The best goalkeeper in the Premier League. Anyway, people won't care about Premier League. They're not bothered about football.
Haslam and Jackson, 44 points apiece. Brooks and Idden, 42 points apiece. Like you said, great to see Christian on the podium, not once but twice. Yeah.
Nice to see Josh back on the podium as well. He's had a real struggle the last few rounds. I think probably since the TT, Josh has struggled massively. Bit of a big change to that motorcycle this weekend as well. They've changed the swing arm completely, so they've gone to the latest version of the Suter swing arm, whereas his teammate Hickey runs a Kalex swing arm, so slightly different. Josh said after the race on Sunday, the final race that he got a podium at, I mentioned about the swing arm, said it made a difference, and he said not really. No, it's not really made too much of a difference. If anything, it's made no difference in his opinion. But still, nice to see him back up on the podium.
Yeah, 7th, 8th and 3rd. And then Hickey was something like, I've got him in front of me, like 9th, 10th and 7th.
Yeah, so a decent weekend.
Yeah, FHO had 4 top 10s.
Yeah, nice weekend. Good to see them back up there. Because like I say, for the last few rounds, we haven't really seen a lot of them, which has been a bit of a shame, especially for the official BMW team. I think they expect a lot better. Josh certainly expects a lot better of himself. Still in with a chance of winning the championship, but you know, mathematically it's possible. Realistically, probably not.
76 points behind.
Yeah, so he needs to have a good weekend. Brands is his favourite circuit on the calendar, so
there's a lot of people who go well at Brands Hatch, aren't they? I heard it muttered a lot. Oh, he's good at Brands Hatch. And of course they all are, but Bridewell and I think he and Irwin shared the wins, didn't they?
Yeah.
No, Bridewell had 2 wins, and of course the first race was red flagged after Haslam's engine, and Vickers took his first ever win at Brands Hatch back in July. Yeah. But it's a circuit where there's a lot of people who have got a lot of ability around there for sure.
Back to the Hots and Knots, we got sidetracked there, didn't we?
Yes.
So Charlie Nesbitt again, I suppose, was good, 4th in the last race. Unfortunate not to get on the podium, but consistent. Not ended in the gravel, which is big for Charlie.
He had a good Sunday, didn't he?
He did.
7th and 4th.
Yeah, we had a real good Sunday. I think the wet conditions sort of just levelled it out a little bit for him there. Franco Bourne for me was good.
On the pathway.
On the pathway bike, he finished 6th in that first race, the sprint race on Saturday, which I was pleasantly surprised about. That was really impressive. So it thus proving that those pathway bikes aren't in there just to make the numbers up. They're in there to really fight for position.
His bike packed up, didn't it, on the warm-up lap on race 2.
Race 2, and then I think he finished. Where did he finish? 14th. Yeah. So he did. So he had a decent weekend really back in the Superbike class.
Are we going to see him in the Superbike class next year?
I believe so. I believe that's the case. I believe potentially will be with that Marvel Motorsport team that he started the year off in Superstock. Right. I believe you'll probably see Alex Olsen in there as well on that pathway bike. It then just depends on who else joins the grid. with that pathway
We've been distracted again from hots and knots.
We have hots and knots.
Anyway, we've done lots of hots.
Yeah, let's go to the knots.
Who didn't have such a good round? Well, clearly the Ducati team.
The Ducati team, for one reason or another.
And the Ducati PR people.
Yeah, poor old Phil Wayne, he had his head in his hands at one point. But it's good for the championship. Yeah, definitely Glenn for me. No points. He's come out with no points. I think he came out yesterday. We're filming this on the Tuesday after Donington. He came out yesterday on a video on his Instagram. If you've not seen it, go and watch it. It's quite interesting. It basically says, I don't think I've ever had a worse weekend point scoring wise in BSB ever, which is he's probably right on that one.
Would you describe that video as apologetic?
Not really.
He didn't say sorry.
He didn't really say sorry.
I think in the heat of the moment, you can as non-professional, not even athletes, we're not a professional racing or an athlete.
Well, speak for yourself.
What are you saying? But we can't, therefore we can't understand what they go through. We can't understand that in the heat of the moment, things are said, actions are taken. But they must understand and they must act in the correct way. And so I think he went into quite a lot of detail on that video about how his foot slipped in the gravel and it looked like a threatening position. And I thought, I don't blame you. I don't blame you, because I think if I was in that position, I'd have been...
You'd do the same. Yeah, and I would do the same as well.
You can kind of not... It's mitigatable, isn't it? You can kind of understand
an
instant reaction. And it's wrong. We don't condone that sort of behaviour, but...
No, but when the red mist descends and when, you've had 3 rounds of battling with your teammate and your teammate saying it's all out war, and then you get taken out and you look behind you and you see your teammate in the gravel with you, it's only going to frustrate you.
This is not a hobby for these people.
This is their job. This is their life. This is what they get paid to do.
So every day, day in, day out, they're training, they're focused.
Yeah.
Knots. So we've mentioned Glenn. Who else didn't have a very good weekend? It's so topsy-turvy. It's hard to single one person out.
I think Kyle Ryde's probably had the topsy of turviest of weekend, shall we say. Going from winning the second race to finishing 12th in the last race on Sunday.
In the first race as well, 12 on 12.
Yeah. It's just a bit of an up and down weekend really for Kyle. Just not consistent enough.
Especially when his main
consistent 12th and 12th, but just not great, just not ideal.
It leaves him 35 points off the lead of the championship.
Yeah,
on an occasion where he could have, at a circuit where he should have.
I mean, really, if you look at that. In reality, all it takes is for Glenn and Tommy to not finish that first race and Kyle win it, and he's right in the championship fight. So I'm speaking out of turn, but stranger things have happened.
So when you set the bar that high, we can say it wasn't as good as he should have.
Yeah. I think probably the big and another knot is probably Andrew Irwin returning back for the first time since his accident after Donington Park. I think it was. It was a test at Knockhill. He just shattered the top of his arm, I think. It was a very Marc Marquez sort of style injury. Didn't finish a race. I think crashed in 2 races and then a technical fault in the last race, I believe. Real shame really for Andrew. I think everybody was expecting him to at least finish 1 race.
Yeah, I think he pulled in, didn't he, on race 2. I think he was
I know he definitely crashed in 1.
He dropped back.
I know he definitely crashed in 1 race. Just can't remember which one. But yeah, so I think that, the 2 Irwins for me are probably the knottists of knots, and then probably Tommy Bridewell again, probably a knot for me. Taking out his teammate, finishing dead last in the first race, and then 9th in the last race. Not the best of weekends for Tommy.
Before we move, we're going to talk about the support classes because there were 3 championships that were decided at Donington Park. But before we do, I just want to pick on perhaps some movements ahead of next year that we might not have covered. I don't think we've spoken about Danny Kent, have we, in a previous episode?
No, I don't think we have. I think we got that news the day after we recorded the last show. But it been spoken about for quite a while in the paddock. And I'd heard it a few rounds before, but I don't really like to go and shout it off in case it's wrong. But Danny Kent moves to McAMS Yamaha for next year. Quite an interesting move. I wasn't expecting him to go to Yamaha, but he's the sole rider in that team. All the focus is on him. I found out this weekend that they are now going to be based literally just up the road from where our office is. They're going to be based at MSS Performance on the side of the A1. So that's where they're going to be running out of, shall we say. New crew chief in Chris Anderson as well. So Chris Anderson was Taz's crew chief in basically all the way throughout Taz's BSB career, and he's currently his crew chief in World Supersport. So Danny's got a good man in his corner there. So yeah, that'd be quite exciting to see, especially on the Yamaha. Can run a lot more corner speed than probably what he did on the Honda.
Well, we've seen it winning, haven't we, with Kent, with Carl Wright,
yeah.
with Ryan Vickers.
Ryan Vickers and Jason O'Halloran and Jack Kennedy running really strong on it this year. You know, just not making the podium, but running strong, you know, finishing fourths. As high as fourth, I think he's finished. Putting it on the front row as well. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
Are there any movers or shakers that we can talk about? And there's plenty of rumours up there and around the paddock, isn't there? But is there anything we can talk about just yet? Is there anything that's being confirmed or that you know of?
Nothing that has been confirmed. I know potentially we've mentioned it before, but Lee Jackson is more or less confirmed to go to a different team. He's more or less signed a deal to stay in Superbike next year. I don't really want to speak out of turn, but he will be on the grid next year with a bit of luck.
Good.
I believe one team potentially maybe running 3 Superbikes. So that'll be interesting to see. The pathway class is probably going to be the biggest one that we're probably going to see a fair few people move into that from super stock. I would imagine you'll see Franco Bourne. That's not been made official, but I would imagine you'll see that. Alex Olsen, I would imagine you'll see that happening as well. Possibly the Jackson Racing team from Superstock that Billy McConnell's in at the minute. I wouldn't imagine Billy would move into the pathway class because it's not really made for him. But I've heard a rumour at the weekend that they've inquired about possibly moving into it. So I would imagine you'll see mostly Fireblades on that. Possibly a couple of BMWs. But in the pathway class, I think you'll mainly see mostly Fireblades in there. So.
What about we've heard from Steve Rodgers earlier on, but what about the any form of official Yamaha support? Will that simply shift over to the?
That shifts over to OMG, so they've now got the official Yamaha factory contract, shall we say, and Martrain take a little bit of a secondary supported contract.
There'll be only 3 Yamahas on the grid.
Possibly, yes. I don't know how true this is. The rumours are great in the BSP paddock. The best one I heard at the weekend was FHO moving to Ducati. Well, that was the best one I'd heard at the weekend.
We did an asterisk here, don't we? The terms and conditions apply, i.e., we don't know. We're just making it up.
Yeah, we're just
reciting the rumours.
Just reciting the rumours. Me and my best friend, we love a good rumour, and that was probably the biggest one from the weekend. So yes, but the other rumour that I'd heard was Shaky Byrne was creating his own team to run Yamahas. How true that is, I don't know, but it's a good rumour. It's all exciting, and if it happens, fair play. If it doesn't, it's a good rumour anyway. So yeah, probably 3 Yamahas on the grid.
I tell you what, so this is the obviously we're recording this just ahead of Brands Hatch, which is the final round of the season. We will probably make another episode after the season finishes, doing a season roundup. What we are going to do as well is we will have on the Motorcycle Live at the NEC in Birmingham, the 19th of November is a Sunday, and that's the BSB day. So there's going to be a lot of riders and a lot of team personnel milling about. Many will be in team kit, many won't. But what we're going to do is we're going to record an episode of the BSB show on that day with a lot of the riders, as many we can try and find, and just to talk about their last season, well, this season, but also next season ahead, what they're going to do over the winter, things like that. So if you are a BikeSocial member, if you're going to be at the NEC, then come along, get involved, give us your thoughts. We'll have a proper little sort of spectator cam or BikeSocial member cam that you can air your thoughts on as well. So don't forget about that. Moving on.
Superstock. Do you want to talk about support classes?
I want to talk about support classes, yeah. Because so there was 3 championships that were finalised, that were won at Donington Park.
Yeah.
Go on, do you want to reel them off? So Supersport first.
So Supersport was Ben Curry. GP2, I believe, was Cameron Fraser, won that one. And then the Hell Performance Junior Supersport was Finn Smart Whedon. So if we start with Ben Curry, mega, absolutely made up for him. He deserves it. He's put a lot of effort in this year. We always joke that he's on a superbike in a super sport class. and he always laughs about it. But in reality, that's what it is. And then
it's obviously the tuition I gave him in that go-kart event at the beginning of the season. He was my teammate.
You didn't come away with a trophy from that one though, did
Funny
you?
That,
no, I did though. In fact, I'm going to bring it in and put it in here so everybody can see it.
Fair.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Actually, I don't know where it's gone. I better find that.
It's over your shoulder.
No, it's not that one. I'm never going to win that one. So yeah, Ben Curry, mega to see. Had a real upturn in form since probably I think Snetterton. I don't even think he's finished off the podium since Snetterton really, and he deserves it. That team deserve it as well. They put so much effort in. They are a bit of a privateer team. Got some good funding, but they are a real family sort of knit run team. It's nice for Wilf to win a championship. That's his first proper British championship. And they deserve it. Yeah,
2 wins with
massively.
The championship, and then 2 podiums with Christian.
2 podiums with Christian, and still in with a shot of winning that BSB crown. That was nice to see. GP2 Cameron Fraser, he's just been consistent all year long in that GP2 class. So congratulations to him, he deserves that. And then Junior Supersport, like we just mentioned, Finn Smart-Weeden. Again, just a real consistent season. And that for me is quite a nice story because it's more or less just him, his mum and his dad in that team, all self-funded. And he's one that I think he spent maybe 3 or 4 years in that class now. And you can see the progression and ultimately come away from it as a champion. So congratulations to him.
Indeed, and well done. And of course that means that we've got plenty of other championships that are up for grabs.
Yes.
Which would be great. So Superstock sort of he's ruling that at the moment, isn't he? Yeah,
Daniel Sands up there for that one. Rode well at the weekend. I spoke to him yesterday actually, and he basically just said it was a get out of jail card, that one really. His wet setup was nowhere near where it should have been. And he was really surprised at how difficult his bike was to ride in the wet. So for him to come away with just the handful of points that he did, keep that lead, it is like important now heading into the final round of the season. The point scores will be the same as Superbike, so 35 for a win. Right. So it's still mathematically possible for Richard Kerr to win that championship. So it's down between Dan and Richard for that one. So that'll be interesting to see. If Richard's watching this, I apologise, but I am rooting for Dan. I am really rooting for him. I really want to see him win a national championship. Yes. He deserves it, especially after the last few years he's had. He really does deserve it. And I think then the other ones are Superstock 600, Junior Superstock. I think there's maybe about 5 or 6 riders that can technically win that. I don't know if they've got 2 races or 1 at Brands, I'm not sure. No. Potentially 2, maybe, but definitely 1 at least. So I think, there's 1 of 6 possible for that one. Owen Jenner leads it at the minute. He's been consistent all year long. And then the final one, I believe, is probably BMW F900 Cup.
F900 Cup, which Richard Cooper's leading at the minute. Won every race.
Won every race, yeah.
There's still a race to go.
I'm not going to jinx it, touch wood. I did have a bet with our PR manager Chris at the start of the year, and I said, I bet you 20 quid Richard Cooper wins every single race this season, and I am not far off winning 20 quid. Knowing Coops, if he watches this, he'll finish second now, just so I don't get 20 quid.
Or he'll want half.
Or he'll want half, but yeah, so for me, Coops is probably the man for that one. He's got so much experience, knows how to win a championship, he's won many before.
Fantastic series, isn't it?
It's exciting. Yeah. It is really exciting. It's provided some real good racing. I was one at the start of the year. I was the naysayers towards Coops being in that class at the start of the year. But if anything, it has brought riders on. Thomas Strudwick, people like that. But Coops is just in a different league. He's a different class of rider, and that just proves.
We'll talk about the format for 2024 in terms of the new championships in the next episode. So at the end, after Brands Hatch, but two new championships for next year, which will be exciting. Going into Brands Hatch, first of all, shall we have a look at the highlights from earlier this year? So this is back in July when the Superbikes went to Brands Hatch last.
Tommy Bridewell was on pole position for the first wet race in 675 days in Bennett's British Superbike as the lights went out and he got the whole shot too into turn 1 ahead of Ryan Vickers and Danny Kent, who then on the cutback managed to go through into P2. A good start also for Leon Haslam, who was 4th ahead of O'Halloran and Glenn Irwin. On the approach to Surtees on the first lap, Ryan Vickers then moved up into 2nd place, just squeezing underneath Danny Kent. Further back, Jack Kennedy made a move on Glenn Irwin. There was a big moment for Tommy Bridewell here. And soon he was to lose his lead as they made their way through Stirling. And lovely move from Ryan Vickers meant that he went into P1. Danny Kent then went through as well. Vickers had a warning from the rear end at Surtees. As we got up to the halfway point in the race, Jack Kennedy then pushed his way through on Tommy Bridewell, and Jason O'Halloran also to move Tommy Bridewell out of the top 6. Storm Stacey then went through on Glenn Irwin after he had a twitch from the rear coming around Clark Curve, and then there was some big issues on the exit of Surtees. A moment here for Peter Hickman. Out front it was Vickers and Kent gunning for glory as they were looking for their first BSB victories, with Idden in 3rd, but there was drama. Smoke coming out of Haslam's machine. He was given the black-orange flag. The red flags were out as well, and the race was halted and declared. Half points awarded. It's a win for Ryan Vickers ahead of Danny Kent and Christian Idden. Race 2 of the weekend at Brands Hatch saw Christian Idden start from pole position, but Danny Kent got the whole shot on the approach to Paddock Hill Bend, with Ryan Vickers in 3rd and Jason O'Halloran in 4th place. A good start also for Jack Kennedy as they went uphill in towards Druids. Christian Idden made his move on Danny Kent to take the lead of the race. The 2 Yamahas were scuffling and there was contact between Glenn Irwin and Lee Jackson at Druids as Irwin tried to get through. Further back, a 3-bike collision between Franco Bourne, Tom Neve and Tito Rabat ended their race. Out front, Vickers and Kent were challenging for the leading positions. Jack Scott unfortunately fell and went out, and Dean Harrison also went out of the race. Danny Kent took the lead, but then we went under safety car rules because of the air fence damage for the Dean Harrison crash. But when the safety car pulled in, Danny Kent resumed out front, leading the way at Brands Hatch with half the race to go ahead of Christian Idden. But Idden and Ryan Vickers in 2nd and 3rd were closing on Danny Kent. Both of the Beard Monster Ducatis had made progress and made moves into turn 1. Tommy Bridewell slowly but surely picked his way through the pack, moving up to 3rd here to go ahead of Ryan Vickers as Idden went back through on Danny Kent. And then making light work of the riders ahead of him as well, going through on Danny Kent to move up to 2nd, and Vickers then as well moved up to 3rd place ahead of Kent. Jason O'Halloran at this stage was in 5th place, but cut adrift from the podium chase, and this was the race-winning overtake into Hawthorne Bend. Tommy Bridewell going through on Christian Idden. There was drama for Leon Haslam. A gear linkage issue meant that he wasn't able to finish the race. The final podium position went to Danny Kent with this move on Ryan Vickers, but no one could catch Bridewell winning his first race of the weekend here at Brands. Tommy Bridewell was on pole position for the final race of the weekend at Brands Hatch, but again it was Danny Kent that got the whole shot as they dropped down into turn 1. But drama from the off as the rear wheel of Ryan Vickers caught the front wheel of Josh Brooks and he went off into the gravel. At Druids, Ryan Vickers took a lovely line to move up into 3rd place as they all jostled for position. Kyle Ride moved up to 3rd. Christian Idden then challenged Danny Kent for the lead to go into P1. But Kyle Ride ran into trouble. A gear linkage issue meant that it was the end of his race. Through the pack was coming Ryan Vickers after what happened into turn 1. He picked off Jason O'Halloran and soon made his way through towards Leon Haslam as well. And Danny Buchan was having a better ride of things as well. Glenn Irwin got through and passed Danny Kent to move into podium contention. Ryan Vickers was pulling off some lovely moves into Stirling at this stage, up into 4th. Charlie Nesbitt clawing his way up into the top 10 as well. This move on Danny Buchan into Druids. Out front, a proper battle then unfolded. Ryan Vickers again into Stirling, moved ahead of Glenn Irwin, but Irwin returned the favour into Clearways. They were side by side on the start-finish straight in the battle for third, but soon Christian Idden was going to come under some trouble as well. Tommy Bridewell went through on Idden. Likewise, Irwin moved up to third ahead of Ryan Vickers, with Danny Kent still in the frame at this stage. And then this was the move from Glenn Irwin on the approach to Surtees, going through on Christian Idden, and then a move on Ryan Vickers as well as he tried to hunt down Tommy Bridewell. On the final lap of the race, Ryan Vickers was trying everything. They'd moved closer and closer to Tommy, but were not able to get past. The checkered flag came out. Bridewell victorious, the double here at Brands on Sunday ahead of Irwin and Ryan Vickers.
Brilliant. I love how this championship comes down to the boil, and I said it earlier on, I think that ticket sales are going through the roof. Hopefully the weather's good or kind, or it's going to be suitable for spectating. It's a fantastic circuit. It's
the best venue for me.
We've got the ingredients to an incredible finale here. At the beginning of the season, we said, didn't we, in the season preview, who we think is going to win the championship.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember you laying down the law. You could have put £5 billion on it.
Good job I didn't, really.
Josh Brooks.
Well, I say good job I didn't. Well, I wasn't expecting to have such a awful middle of the year, really. But he's still in with a chance. Yeah, I said Brooks at the start of the year. You said Jason, didn't you? I'm sure you said Jason.
I'm doing it. So there were 7 races in the middle there where Brooks scored 9 points.
Yeah, as opposed to Tommy and Glenn probably picking up 150, 200 points. So yeah, it's that I think just after the TT really cost Josh.
I said Jason O'Halloran.
You did.
He's been up and down.
He has.
We've seen him winning. We've seen him dominating. We've seen him struggle. Surprising, really.
That Alton curse again, I think, caused him a bit of a headache. The Alton 2 curse, should I say? He just didn't have the best round of when he needed to at the crunch time, especially after a real good weekend at Thruxton and then a decent weekend at Cadwell point scoring wise. Alton just wasn't Jason's. It just seems to be his Achilles heel every year. So hopefully that can change next year. But yeah, so
he was my pick for the title, and at the moment, technically, we're both still in.
We are still in with a shout. Yeah, it's an unrealistic shout. It's a long shot, but it's a shot. But come on then. Who are you getting? Who are you saying is going to come out of there champion?
Tommy goes so well at Brands Hatch.
So does Glenn. And it suits the Yamaha.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. No, I can't see anyone other than a Ducati who will take the title. I think that it will be. I'm looking forward to it being so close. If I'm to put my, if you got a gun to my head, haven't you?
I haven't got a gun to your head. No.
I think Tommy will take it.
I think the same. Yeah, I think the same.
I'd love to see Glenn win it, to be honest.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I like the pair of them. I really do like the pair of them. But I have just a bit of a soft spot for Tommy. I know a lot of people at the minute don't. I know a lot of people are, Team Tommy, Team Glenn. I get that. It reminds me a little bit. I say reminds me. I was only flipping 5 years old when it happened. But it's a bit Hodgson and Walker-esque. You were either Team Neil or Team Chris. And for me, I'm Team Bridewell. But if Glenn does watch this, I'm sorry, Glenn. But yeah, I am Team Tommy. I'm rooting for Tommy this weekend. So for me, Tommy's going to be the champion, I think.
And that's just the best bit, isn't it? That we just don't know.
We just don't know.
Who's going to finish first, second,
saying that,
third,
it could
fifth,
be. We could be completely wrong here, and this could be a meme after this, and Kyle Ryde could be champion. It's just so unpredictable.
Either way, or whatever happens, it's still been an extraordinary season. There's been many highs, which is great. What do we need to talk about in terms of BikeSocial membership? So we're going to have our pit garage again, isn't it?
Yes. So for the last round, it's the same again. So we've got the pit boxes back, which is the first garage in the infield paddock of Brands Hatch, where most people can't get to. But if you're a BikeSocial member or a Bennetts customer, then you will get access to that. So you get access to that across all the weekend. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We'll probably do it as we've done it before, where we've split it into a morning session and an afternoon session, just so everybody gets the opportunity to get down there. We'll also be running the pit perch as well. That'll be on there. which I can imagine on Sunday it's going to be Ragman's fight for that last Superbike race, because everyone's going to want to be on the pit wall as Team Tommy comes past and takes the win, or Glenn or Lee Jackson or Kyle Ride, whoever. That'll be there. That's on a first come first served basis as always. So you just need to come and see us before to get yourself signed up for that.
So there'll be VIP hospitality. And
yes.
For those who have got that hospitality, you will know it already.
You'll know already with a bit of luck now. If you haven't, same as always, just drop us a message on either Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, and I will pass that through to the relevant people to get you sorted for that one. You can also probably hand out a couple of trophies as well. That's possible. It all depends on once I've spoken to Claire on probably Friday or Saturday morning, Claire at MSV, just to direct which ones we can and can't do. Just come and ask us, and we'll see what we can do for you on that one. Can't promise anything, but we'll ask the question. There is no priority pit walk this weekend. I have just been informed of that before coming down to film this, because pit walk on Sunday morning is at 8 o'clock in the morning. So there is no priority pit walk. I think it's just literally just a free for all from the top all the way down the bottom. So unfortunately there is no priority pit walk for our customers this weekend, but like I say, there is still a pit walk 8 o'clock in the morning from what I've been told. So yeah, other than that, I don't think there's anything else to really say about membership this weekend.
The scene is set.
Certainly
Good. Well,
is.
if you're not yet a member, then you can join one of two ways. You can either insure your motorbike directly with Bennetts, or you can stump up £6 a month or £60 a year. To become a BikeSocial member and to get a whole host of discounts and offers and competitions and brilliant stuff. Good. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your input.
No, thank you very much. If anybody wants to, we're still undecided on whether we're going to do these again next year. They are. Please bear in mind, they are hard work to do. We have to film it and then edit it all ourselves. Well, I say film it and edit it all ourselves. We film it together. I edit it. It probably takes a good 2 or 3 days to fully do properly. So it is fairly time consuming on top of everything else that we do. But if you do enjoy them and you do want to see them come back next year, just drop it in the comments, and we'll then make a decision off the amount of love that you show us, whether if you want them back or not. Do you want to do them again next year?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, looks like we're maybe doing them again next year. But yeah, so just let us know, because like I say, they are time consuming, they are hard work, but ultimately at the end of it, if you guys enjoy them, then we'll carry on doing them. Good. Anything else to mention?
Yeah, well, Facebook is the only thing I was going to mention.
Oh, yes.
Come and chat to us on our Facebook group. I think it's facebook.com/groups/BikeSocial.
Yeah,
Bennetts
BikeSocial, I think it is.
Come find us on Facebook. We've got a nice, fun little group in there. And that's enough. That's enough waffle from us, I think.
I think so, yeah. We've run on a long time there.
Thanks for watching.
Hopefully we've not bored you.
If you're still there, bye.